The unleashed power of the atom has changed everything save our modes of thinking, and we thus drift toward unparalleled catastrophe. These are not my words. They belong to Albert Einstein. He warned us decades ago. Yet here we are on September 29, 2025. The world today holds nearly 12,500 nuclear warheads. Russia, the United States, possess about 90% of them. This isn't just a number, it's a measure of our collective capacity for self-destruction. Each warhead is a silent promise of devastation, a ghost of a city waiting to be vaporized, a shadow that stretches over all of us. The Cold War supposedly ended, yet the language of ultimatums and nuclear brinkmanship has returned. It is broadcast on state television, it is shouted in political rallies, it echoes across social media. The unthinkable has once again become a topic of casual and deeply dangerous conversation. We are living in a time of profound and unsettling uncertainty. The threat is immediate and it is evolving. The doomsday clock, that grim symbol maintained by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, sits perilously close to midnight. It's a stark reminder that the margin for error is shrinking with each passing day. The systems designed to prevent catastrophe, treaties, communication hotlines, diplomatic norms, are fraying under the strain of renewed great power competition. The simmering conflict between Washington and Moscow has just been thrown into a blazing new light. President Donald Trump has made a statement that sent shockwaves across the globe. At a rally, he called out the repeated aggressive harassment of United States drones by Russian fighter jets over international waters. His words were blunt. "The next time a Russian jet gets that close, you have to shoot them down." This is not diplomatic language. This is a direct call for military engagement with a nuclear-armed power, a line past administrations avoided. This statement represents a dramatic departure from traditional American foreign policy. For decades, the guiding principle in such encounters has been de-escalation. Pilots are trained to avoid direct conflict. Pilots are trained to maneuver away. Pilots are trained to protest through diplomatic channels. Trump's proclamation throws that playbook out the window. He is advocating for a policy of direct, forceful response. Supporters see it as a necessary projection of strength, a way to re-establish deterrence, to put an end to what they call Russia's bullying tactics. They argue that weakness invites aggression, that a powerful show of force is the only language the Kremlin understands. However, critics, many seasoned military commanders and foreign policy experts, are sounding the alarm. They warn the policy is incredibly reckless and risks catastrophic escalation. The danger of nuclear threats lies not just in the potential use of the weapons themselves, but in how they corrode the very foundations of global stability. When a nation begins to casually invoke its nuclear arsenal, it changes the rules of international relations. It introduces an element of extreme existential risk into every disagreement. A conventional conflict, however brutal, has limits. A nuclear conflict does not. By making these threats, Russia is essentially telling the world that it is willing to contemplate the unthinkable to achieve its geopolitical goals. This normalizes a level of rhetoric that makes the world a far more dangerous and unpredictable place for everyone. This normalization of nuclear threats creates a perilous psychological environment. It lowers the threshold for what is considered an acceptable risk. Leaders may become desensitized to the gravity of their words. Military planners may start to incorporate low-yield tactical nuclear weapons into their strategies as a viable option. This is a slippery slope. The long-held taboo against the use of nuclear weapons, a cornerstone of global security since 1945, begins to erode. Once that taboo is broken, even on a small scale, the precedent is set. The world would cross a threshold into a new and terrifying era where nuclear weapons are no longer just a deterrent, but a tool of warfare. The consequences of even a limited nuclear exchange would be catastrophic. Beyond the immediate death and destruction in the blast zone, the radioactive fallout would spread across continents, poisoning land. To understand why Russia is making these nuclear threats, we must look at the context from Moscow's perspective. The Kremlin views the ongoing conflict in Ukraine as an existential struggle, eastward expansion of NATO Western influence. Faced with a determined Ukrainian military heavily supplied by the United States, its allies, Russia's conventional forces have been stretched thin. From their viewpoint, their nuclear arsenal is the ultimate trump card, the great equalizer guarding Russia's sovereignty. The threats are a stark message. Do not push us too far. This strategy is often called escalate, to de-escalate a core part of modern Russian military doctrine. The idea: threaten a limited nuclear strike to shock an adversary into backing down and force terms favorable to Russia. It's a dangerous theory, assuming the other side will de-escalate rather than respond in kind. The single most critical element in this entire standoff is the risk of miscalculation over the Black Sea. This is the flashpoint. This is where the abstract theories of nuclear deterrence and the harsh reality of military hardware collide. Imagine a young American pilot, commanding a sophisticated F-35 fighter jet. They see a Russian Su-27 behaving aggressively, buzzing a multi-million-dollar US drone. The rules of engagement are now ambiguous. The official policy is de-escalation. But the words "shoot them down" are ringing in the public sphere, creating immense political and psychological pressure. What does that pilot do? This moment of decision is the point of no return. If the American pilot fires, a Russian pilot is killed and a Russian aircraft is destroyed. When we discuss nuclear threats and geopolitical strategy, it is easy to get lost in the jargon deterrence escalation payloads, but we must never forget what is truly at stake. We are talking about human lives, millions of them. We are talking about cities, homes, families, survivors of Hiroshima, survivors of Nagasaki. The Hibakusha have warned us for 80 years about the horrors they witnessed. They speak of black rain, shadows burned into stone, suffering that transcends generations. Their testimony is a sacred warning we ignore at our peril. A nuclear war would not be an event on a screen, it would be the end of countless individual worlds. The seriousness of this conflict extends far beyond blast zones. The entire planet is being held hostage by decisions of a few leaders. We stand at a pivotal moment in history. The renewed nuclear threats from Russia, bold and unpredictable responses from Donald Trump, have created a volatile, dangerous new chapter in international relations. Shocking reality, the world's nuclear arsenals, the immense risks of miscalculation over the Black Sea, the devastating human cost a conflict would entail. The path forward is uncertain. The stakes could not be higher. We are forced to confront existential dangers again. The story is far from over. It is unfolding in real time in the skies, in diplomatic backchannels, and in the heated rhetoric of public debate. What should happen now? Let us know in the comments below.